Hi everyone, I'm Gina Minardi and I'm a licensed therapist who got fed up with therapy. This is a one-woman show about my journey of finding the spaces between non-traditional approaches of healing. What I learned is that there's no one right way to heal, and you truly are your best resource. Therapists and healers are meant to support you on your path, but they don't have all of the answers. You do. This show is about the spaces between laughter, tears, thoughts, ego, soul, messy growth, and moments of joy. It's about personal liberation, inner knowing, and the tools that get you there. I will cover topics that make many of us uncomfortable and interviewing people who are willing to go there. I've spent thousands of hours listening to human beings navigate their life story, from rehabs in Malibu to homeless shelters in East LA, and now my private practice. It has been some of the most profound, painful, and beautiful moments in my life. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Spaces Between. Today, I'm going to go over a pretty short list of what 2023 was for me, my biggest takeaways, challenges, and I would say the central theme or intention going into 2024. So here I go with the first one, which really was the dominant theme in 2023, which was transitioning to becoming a mother. Was quite possibly one of the hardest transitions in my life, and also one of the most beautiful and profound things I've ever gone through. But as I've talked about in other episodes, there were pieces of becoming a mother that felt similar to taking care of my sick mother in high school. Because as other high school friends were worried about such different things like getting their nails done, fake tans, football games, and blunts after school, I was rushing home to my mom and accompanying her to chemotherapy appointments. I had to sacrifice part of my teenage life to be a caretaker, and I was terrified of losing her. I was in a deep existential crisis with the meaning of all of this and life. Becoming a mom has brought up similar feelings. In the beginning stages, I had major anxiety that something catastrophic would happen to my son. And again, insert here the excess growth of the amygdala and triggering past wounds, but also that part of the brain becomes hugely amplified as a new mom. There's actual physical growth in the amygdala. And so if you listened to the episode before on motherhood, tears, and birth, then you know I talk a lot also about this feeling of good enoughness, of making the right decisions for my little guy's developing brain, body, secure attachment to me, holding his emotions, etc. And then throw in these very similar feelings that mirrored when I was questioning how exactly I was showing up for my mom as a caretaker. And then wrapping my mind and heart that maybe I wasn't doing enough for her and her cancer, or being kind of a selfish ass teenager in moments. And now fast forward currently as a mother, I still struggle with the same sentiment. How am I showing up? Is it selfish that sometimes I want to go surfing or have alone time? Am I showing up fully with my heart and emotional attunement? Who am I now? This is a trippy and similar feeling of grief. I had a new identity when I lost her, and I have a totally new identity when I gave birth to my son. So can I fully surrender to being a full-time caretaker of a little human and truly let go of the freedom and flexibility? Can I feel all of this fierce love, growth, and surrender, and also the fact that there's no guarantee with your children? So yeah, I would say that this was the biggest thing in 2023, which brings me to number 2. So years ago, there was an intuitive that I was seeing personally, and then I ended up collaborating with. And we ran a workshop together, and I actually asked her at one point, can you make decisions in your life that are ultimately bad for you? And she told me, you can make decisions or choices that compress your level of consciousness that ultimately weren't aligned for you in this path of life. As I said in this episode on becoming a mother, it has literally brought me to my knees. And I've had moments in secret where I've thought to myself, Jesus, maybe this was the wrong choice for me. But that is absolutely not the truth. It was just meeting these beasts of sleep deprivation and more structure and more routine and things that, quite frankly, I wasn't truly surrendering to. And once I did, it opened up this whole new world of joy and love and presence with my son. And I just want to give a very special shout out to two of my friends, Corrigan and Laura, who probably saw me cry more this year than they ever have. And any of my other girlfriends who have just been so wonderful and loving to me during this time and loving to my son. That was another thing that I learned in 2023 is the value of amazing girlfriends and community. So moving into number 3, I'm just going to talk again about surrender. I would say surrender has been and I think surrender is something for all of us in our life path, whether it's difficult relationships, maybe certain things about your job, about your life that you can't change in the immediate moment, but you can have a degree of surrendering and just bringing more presence and neutrality and equanimity to it. So, number 4, going back to number 2, I would say that one of my bigger lessons that I've also learned about myself is that I have the hardest time asking for help. It feels like this gigantic burden to ask other people for anything. And I have learned to be very self-reliant from various traumas in my family system. And I don't innately feel that I can truly depend on people. So I tend to, quote unquote, muscle up, buck up, and do it myself. I have learned the importance of, really checking in and asking friends if they can show up for me in certain ways. And that's really, really super uncomfortable. Even something as simple as my girlfriend Laura wanted to bring me up a smoothie and some formula for my son when I was just so depleted. And I just felt like endlessly guilty about it. But then when she came, it was just like balm to my soul. So moving into number 5 is, this is less about parenting and more about a general need to soften and open my heart. So when I pray at the end of my meditations, I ask to individually soften and for the collective of all of humanity to soften and operate from more of a space of love and more from our hearts. So number 6, which has been pretty hard for me this year, witnessing what feels like the absolute regression of human evolution and awakening. And again, I'm not into getting debates about all of the things going on in the world, but I guess just what's shocking to me is that as humans, we are still so in support of war, and that we think violence is going to be the thing that creates less violence in humanity. And also just our level of disconnection to the earth is, borderline terrifying. But this brings me to number 7. I'm not going to live in fear of what I feel are going to be dire ramifications of our choices as humans. I'm going to, again, similarly to parenting and also in regards to the collective, even when people go on and on about, Trump is going to be reelected in 2024, and he very well might be, but I'm not going to add more anger, more fuel to the fire. I'm just going to continue to work on myself and bringing a level of neutrality and balance. And some might say that that's apathy, but for me is completely the opposite. I think if you knew me personally, you would know I'm just the furthest thing from that. But I just, we are in such a space of division and vitriol that energetically, I just don't think all of us screaming at one another is really doing anything. So, number 8, when we get so overwhelmed in life by the world or by our personal life, whatever it may be, that just come back to yourself. Come back to your breath, your heart, your healing, your love, your direct acts of service, which could be speaking kindly to each person you come across in a day. And number 9, I was recently talking with my partner about how the end of friendships can feel like this just painful, painful open wound, especially if you've never had a direct conversation about the closure of it. So recently I've been thinking about my 42 years on the planet, which is a good amount of time, and the different relationships over my entire life that have ended or slowly dissolved. And when they drifted apart, what were the energetics and actions of each person, the responsibility of each person? And many of my clients have also been talking about this as well. Do closure conversations matter? And I do believe that sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But how we hold everyone that's no longer in our life, I do think is important. And I don't believe we can always, this is a big conversation. I'm going to speak for myself as I'm going through my personal list. I'm just going to go with, I like to hold everybody with love and gentleness. It's hard. There's pain, but I feel it's a better way to live. So number 10, the importance of time and silence, self-reflection, and what I like to call the space between. Number 11, the importance of sex and passion in a relationship. That is so important. Number 12, the importance of self-forgiveness, grace, and compassion. And number 13, the importance of seeing my body as a temple and the engine for my mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, shifting my relationship deeply with alcohol, caffeine, and noticing even how different foods make me feel, and a mindfulness and intention with myself. And it feels like a deep practice of self-love. And also, I would say slowing down. When we become more intentional with things, we end up slowing down, which I just think is good overall. Number 14, the importance of having a relationship with your nervous system, learning how to down-regulate and getting into your parasympathetic. So, I've been diving into different things this year, like breath work, meditation always, chanting even to stimulate the polyvagal nerve, and cold showers are a few of my go-tos. And number 15, I think I said this earlier, but in my life, I've just realized the importance of community and people that you just align with on a heart, mind level, soul level as well. Number 16, I've said this probably a bazillion times, but I am reminded all of the time with myself and my shit and my patterns that the healing journey is never ending. And actually, if all of us can kind of look at this more as exciting and with curiosity and not as daunting. Even though I'd have to say in my own life, sometimes my patterns feel so deeply entrenched in me that I'm just like, why? Why is this still playing out? But again, learning to bring some gentleness, bringing some love, that is just an ongoing practice for me. And I think for most of humanity. Number 17. So getting to the essence of who you are is actually not that difficult. And that is something I have learned this year. So again, I'm going to go to slowing down. You don't have to do this incredibly deep work on yourself all the time. Sometimes you just need to go out and sit in nature, sit next to a tree, hug a tree. Yep, I said it. Take deep, long breaths and remember your inherent connection to it all. So that was a mouthful, but I'm looking at time, 14 minutes. Tried to get that out quickly for all of you. And so I would say, I'm not going to go into my personal list for 2024 because really what I noticed when I was writing it out is that it's less about, even, people will say intentions, goals. There's different words for all the things, and being career focused really for me on an individual level. And again, just staying in my heart, opening my heart, staying from a space of love, a space of forgiveness, gentleness, compassion, neutrality. And I just feel we just so deeply need that. And I think actually all of us need, not that we can't have career goals or financial goals, traveling, all of that stuff is super important to life. But I think sometimes, just simplifying to bringing it back to love. So that's going to be my continuing theme throughout the next couple of episodes. And thanks so much. Always, I have gratitude for all of you who tune in and send me such loving and kind messages. Happy New Year. Hi, friends. If you have been enjoying Spaces Between, please take a moment to subscribe, and leaving a review is the cherry on top. Thank you so much, and I look forward to connecting with you next week.